Today we'll see the topic of network security. Okay. So this is the first topic we have in fifth unit, where we will see like what are attacks, what are services, what are mechanisms. Okay. So when we consider network security, we will try to introduce you to the terminology we have in network security. So when I consider computer security, okay, what does it mean? When I consider network security, what does it mean? When I say internet security, what does it mean? So security doesn't mean like everything is under security, right? We have different things. Like if I consider a building, securing the building is different from securing a computer, right? So we need to understand the variation between what is computer security, network security and internet security. So when I consider computer security, it is like I have some system, okay, and I have some collection of different data available in that particular system. To protect that particular system from unauthorized usage or modification or access control, we need to have some kind of tools. Okay, those tools will be protecting the data available in the computer from hackers. Okay, so if you are designing or coming up with any tools which can protect the data which is available in a particular computer system, then we will call that one as computer security. When it comes to network security, I am not interested in how you are trying to protect your system, but I am interested in when you have two systems which are trying to communicate with each other, okay, during this transmission, how I am going to provide security. Or for example, if I consider an organization, I may have several computers, okay, how you are going to secure someone from entering into your network, okay, or your data being taken outside the network, how you are going to provide security. So that comes as part of network security. When I consider internet security, like this, I may have organizations which may have their own network, and when I consider interconnection of all these networks and trying to transmit data over all these networks, how I am going to provide security. That is considered to be internet security. Within your own individual system, that is computer security. When you are talking with someone during the transmission, we call it as network security. Or within an organization, if you want to protect your computers while communicating with outside or while coming inside, then it is network security. But when I consider such organizations, collection of different interconnected networks and trying to transmit over that, in that case we are going to consider it as network security. So our focus is not on computer security or network security, but our main intention is to secure the internet. Okay, that is the last one, which consists of different measures to deter. Like if somebody is trying to get control of that one, we need to deter that one, or we need to prevent that, or at least if someone has entered into your system, or if someone is trying to do some kind of attack, you should be able to detect that particular thing. Or if someone has already came into existence, then you will have to correct security violations. Okay, so this internet security basically deals with deter, prevent, detect and correcting security violations that involve during the transmission and storage of information. So it's something like an analogy. What you can consider is we are trying to provide a guard for this computer whenever this is communicating with others, or when the information is there within this particular system. We will see some examples of security violations. Like we can consider as shown here, we have user A who transmits a file to B. Okay, we have one user A who is transmitting a file to B. This file basically has some sensitive information. For example, you can consider this is payroll records, like salary details of some particular person or organization, you can think anything. And that should be protected. For example, you can consider he is HR manager. He is sending some information about what is the salary of this particular person B. Okay. So it should be disclosed only to the person B, right? It should not be disclosed to any other person C who is working in the company or outside the company anywhere. Okay. You should not disclose that particular information with C. Only A and B should know what are the salaries. Okay. What is the salary of B? Only A and B will be having that information. But C, who is not authorized to get into this communication, reads this particular file. Whatever the file you are exchanging, that particular file C reads. Okay, and he is able to monitor the transmission going from A to B. Okay, and whenever this transmission is happening, he will capture that particular thing. He is not completely taking and making like B doesn't get that particular thing, but he is making a copy and trying to look into what is that particular information. So that is considered to be unauthorized access or confidentiality. For example, many people have a habit of reading others' diaries, okay, other postcards. Basically, people will have, right? Basically, humans are like we are more interested in other person's activities than our own activities, right? So it is like unauthorized access or confidentiality. You are trying to get access to something for which you are not the authorized person, or you are trying to get some information which is confidential, okay, and you are trying to get access to that. That is one security violation, an example of security violation. Then we have another violation where we have a network manager D, okay, and he transmits a message to computer E. Like it's like I have B, okay, under him a network is there, okay, and we have a computer E which is under this particular person. We have a computer E which is under this particular person. So what happens here? The message instructs the computer E to update an authorization file which includes the identities of number of new users that are to be given access to the computer. Like it's like I have different systems over here. Okay, so it's something like you can consider he's some bank related person. New employees, new banking employees have come into your organization. Basically, you need to provide access to all those people. So you will direct a person to give the newly added people authorization. But what happens here? We have some other person here who tries to intercept that particular message. He will try to alter this particular file. For example, you have 10 new entries data over here. So you will try to alter that 10 entries, or maybe you want to add some more people here, or you want to delete some existing entries. Okay, and after doing that particular thing, okay, you will capture that one and you will modify and you will be sending. So in this case, what happens? You want some people to get access, but in between F came into existence and he modified entire thing. Okay, what happens? Integrity is under attack here. So you are saying like maybe like India, it is coming and it is saying like tomorrow we will have a meeting, or India is coming and saying like I have a shared resources for which I will give access to America, I'll give access to Russia, I'll give access to Israel, I'll give access to some South African country. Like that we are saying. But in between, some hacker like China or Pakistan is coming and they are trying to modify and they are trying to include their own names here. Okay, basically they should not have that access, right? you are trying to change the content of this message and trying to deliver to other person. Okay, so that is what happening here. Let me try changing the color over here. This will be better visible, right, compared to red.
Both are visible. Red is better.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that is the second violation we have with respect to integrity. Then I have another thing, like in the previous example, same, like whatever the thing we consider, like F is trying to alter or modify your content, okay? But in this case, in this example, F is not modifying, not altering the message, but it is completely removing that message and it is constructing its own message. What happens in this case? You are trying to give some information to the network manager which is not constructed by D, but you are constructing that message and send it. This is considered to be mask read. Okay, so it's something like you are generating some message, but you are telling the other person like it is coming from D. Okay, so this is mask read. Then I have another thing here, fourth example, where it's like, it's general, like in companies, people will be fired out because of inactivity or people not obeying company's rules, okay, because of which people will be fired without warning. What happens in this case is, basically after firing a particular person, he should not be given the access to the organization resources. Okay, so the personal manager sends a message to server system to invalidate employee's account. Okay, so basically you have access to some system, but you are telling the server, I have fired this particular employee and remove the access to this particular employee's account. That's what you are saying. But what this particular person is doing, he is intercepting the message, and instead of sending that particular message or modifying that particular message immediately, he is not doing anything, just he is delaying that particular message. Okay, so for example, you have sent at 9 o'clock to invalidate a particular person's account, you are stopping that one and you are sending that particular file at 10 o'clock. Within this time 9 to 10, you are trying to get whatever the maximum possible action, like whatever the maximum access you can get, that you are doing, and you are trying to do some kind of harm to the organization. Okay, so that is an example of violation which can be done. Next we have another example. A message is sent from customer to stockbroker, or you can consider you are sending a message from your system or mobile to Amazon. Okay, and in which you are saying like you want to buy something, okay, of quantity 2. Okay, you are sending a request to Amazon and you are saying like I want to buy this particular product which of quantity 2. Later, when the particular Amazon, and you kept like cash on delivery. Okay, you have ordered something and you kept cash on delivery. But later, when the particular person came to deliver that particular product, you are saying like you have not ordered that particular product. What Amazon has to do in that case? Okay, this is some kind of real thing, right? So you tell me what Amazon has to do in that case. Yes? Okay, anyway, we have measures to handle those things, but basically, like if like in general, what is happening in Amazon to overcome these kind of things? You are trying to log in with your own username and password, so you cannot deny like you have not ordered this particular thing. But if I consider those things are not there, randomly you are going to Amazon, you are keeping some address that is being delivered to your house. Okay, in such case, even if you say like Amazon cannot say like it is you who have ordered it, right? If there is nothing like logging into system by giving your own password, some kind of things. Okay, so we have those measures because of which customer cannot deny. But if you, for a second, if you feel like those kind of username, password kind of things are not there, then even if customer denies like he has ordered for that one, you cannot do anything. This is kind of non-repudiation. Non-repudiation can come from client to the corresponding server or server to client. Anything can happen. It's something like you have ordered, you have paid something, but later Amazon will say like I have not received any amount. What you will do in that case? You don't have any other option, right? If you have some kind of reference or at present we have some kind of reference or transaction number, all those kind of things, you can claim that you have paid. But if you consider like these details are not available with you or even with Amazon, you don't have another option. If Amazon denies like you have paid already, you won't be able to do anything. Like if they deny like they have not received. Okay. So this is kind of non-repudiation, and this list, whatever the examples we are giving, this is non-ending list. It keeps on going. Okay, we can keep on giving more examples. So basically, security attacks can be categorized. Like we have some general categories of attacks. So we can say like interruption, interception, modification, and fabrication. Interception is something like somebody is trying to eavesdrop your message, like you are doing some communication, two people are talking, third person will be there and will be listening. Basically in parties and all what happens, two people will be talking, the other person, he will be just surrounded by you, okay, he will be standing just near to you, he will pretend like he is not he's not concentrating in your communication, but he will try to capture whatever you are communicating. Okay? That's what happens. Then interruption. Okay, you are trying to block the message from being delivered to the other person. Or modification. Like this is the communication which has to happen, but in between you captured that particular thing, okay, and you modified that. You are saying like you are saying to the bank, okay, like transfer 300 rupees to someone, but suddenly your friend who is the person who actually takes that amount, he is modifying that one and making 500. Okay, we have measures to detect that one, but if he says that one, that is kind of a modification. Replay attack. So it's something like today you have transferred some 1,000 rupees to your friend. Okay, after 1 hour or after some days or after maybe tomorrow, the same message, whatever the message you have generated here, your friend is trying to replay. The same message again it says like transfer 1,000 rupees. Okay, so if it is transferred, then it is kind of replay attack. Okay, again I am saying this is an example. In today's world, we have measures to overcome these replay attacks. Fabrication. It's like you are creating a message and you are trying to send. You are creating a message like transfer 50,000 from A to B. Okay. If the message is coming from A, that is fine. But who is generating? Someone, some D or hacker is coming into the picture and he is saying that. So basically these kind of things happens, right? Like phishing, these kind of things. Not exactly fabrication, but someone in the place of you, he tries to communicate with bank and he will generate some kind of message. So these are some of the attacks we have. So first we will try to define what is security attack. So security attack is like any action that compromises the security information owned by an organization. You have some secret information. Someone comes into your organization and steals that one. then that is security attack. For example, bank is there. Bank has lot of money in lockers. Thieves will come. They will get into the lockers. They will steal the amount. That is security attack. Security attack, it doesn't mean only with respect to computers. It can be anything. Someone, when you are not at home, someone gets into your house and steals something. That is security attack. Okay. So any action that compromises the security of information owned by an organization can be considered as security attack. Information security is about how to prevent attacks, failing which at least you should be able to detect attack on information based system. Okay. So first, what is the responsibility of information security? Preventing attack. We should make sure like nobody gets into your system and tries to steal what is the personal information you have in your system. For example, you failed to prevent attacks. Okay. You failed to prevent virus coming into your system. Virus came into your system now. At least you should be able to detect that particular thing. Detect that virus came into your system and you should be able to protect that system. Okay. Often there is a confusion between the terms threat and attack. Can you just anyone try to define what is threat, what is attack? Normal English. Okay, normal English this is. What is threat, what is attack? Yes. See, basically,
Threat.
yes, yes. Go ahead.
Threat is an indication of some damage or injury, sir.
Mhm.
And attack is
Attack is like pre-planned and deliberate, sir. Threat can be deliberate or not.
Okay. So I'll give simple example. Yeah, yeah. Someone go ahead.
a
Threat
violent.
can be human negligence also.
You repeat it again.
So threat can be like human failure or negligence also, sir.
What about attack? Okay, so let me tell in simple way. This is your house. Okay, you are going to some place, picnic. Let us consider. Basically, you have a lock to this door, but what happened? You were overconfident, and what you did is you have not locked your system and went for picnic. There is a threat to this particular house. Okay. Looking at this threat, that means whatever the possibility we have to get into that particular house, thief came into this house and have stolen the money. That is attack. Okay. Now you understood what is threat, what is attack.
Yes, sir.
So, for example, basically, if you consider politicians, they will have different kinds of security, right? Z plus category, Y category, Z category, etc. Why they are having? Because they have threat from maybe terrorists or maybe other politicians. Okay, it doesn't mean like they are coming and attacking, right? They have a chance that they may be attacked because of the loopholes. There may be a lot of loopholes which are available, because of which they may be attacked. Okay, so that is threat. To protect from that, okay, to protect from those kind of threats, they are trying to have this kind of securities. Okay, in simple, this is the best example. Like if I consider a particular house, if you are keeping open that particular house and going anywhere, then that is a threat you have. For example, you have your system, laptop. You have very confidential or secret information in that one. Okay, you are not keeping lock or password for your system, and you just kept in your classroom. Anybody can open that one, anybody can see that one. What is there inside? Okay, so that is threat. You have some secret in your mobile phone. You have not kept any password. Okay, that is threat. Okay, by looking at that, like you have no password for your system, someone came and opened your system and they have taken your information. Like they try to get into your Facebook, post something. Okay, they try to chat with someone. Okay, or send mails to someone. They are attacks. Okay, so that is a clear distinction we can make when I consider the two terms threat and attack. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, often people think like they are same, but we have slight variation because the loopholes. What are the loopholes we have in the system? Attacks can happen, and we have wide varieties of attacks. Basically, we can categorize them into passive attacks or active attacks. So we'll see some examples of these passive and active attacks. So basically, we have a sender who is sending some information over the internet to receiver. Okay, we have some opponent. He is trying to indulge in this particular information and capture what is the communication that is happening. Okay, so when I take an analogy for this one, it's like in olden days we used to have postal card. Okay, you used to write something and send through postal system. So what happens in this one? Anybody who has access to this particular postal card will be able to read what are the contents of the postcard, right? So the same thing will happen here. Like it's something like you have sent some messages to your friend through your WhatsApp or anything. Your phone has no locking system. So what the other person, maybe your brother or someone, they will open the WhatsApp, they can see what are the contents of that WhatsApp. Okay, I'm not saying like there is harm in reading these things, but these things are possible. So for example, you consider like maybe we have company A, company B. Okay, basically they work together in implementing some kind of research, but unfortunately for both of you there is someone who is opponent. Okay, whatever the technical or intellectual properties you are exchanging, he could get access to that one. What happens because of that one? Before you come into market, that person can come and release that particular product. Okay, so basically that is what happens with China. I don't know if you know, many of the incidents happened. Like recently in news also there was an incident like from China we have agents or persons in each and every R&D center. Okay, whether you consider pharmaceutical industry, whether you consider manufacturing industry, or whatever the industry you consider, in big companies, the respective Chinese are there. So in pharmaceutical industry you consider, you are trying to develop vaccine for COVID. Maybe some country is coming and developing. Basically this is intellectual property, right? No other company should know this thing. So what this particular person does, whatever the intellectual property you have, he will give the same information to the respective country, like Chinese government. And using this, they will come up with their own product before actually you come into the market. Okay, basically this is happened with the General Electric, basically GE Motors we call it, right? they wanted to come up with some electric vehicle or something. Okay, there was a Chinese guy in that particular company. Okay, just before they could launch the vehicle in the market, a dupe of that one has been released in Chinese, because of which they were in lot of losses. Okay, so these kind of things will happen. So there may be some opponents who will try to capture the information which is happening between you and your co-partner. If they get into this particular information, they can read, and like sometimes there won't be any problem with reading the contents, like your WhatsApp messages, your mother or father reading. There is no problem in that one. In case you consider everything is fine, but in case if I consider the intellectual properties of two companies being accessed by someone else, you are going to have problem. Okay, and that we need to protect. So these kind of things are considered to be release of message contents. For example, you are sending your username and password to bank. Okay, if someone, a hacker comes into this one and captures your username and password, like that he captures username and password of several users and he posts in Google, what happens? Anybody can access that one, right? That is what happens most of the time. Like with respect to your Gmail passwords, Facebook passwords, the hackers try to get into what this particular communication, and they try to capture what are the passwords you have for your accounts, and those things will be posted in public sites. And other hackers, like these are like we can say higher level hackers who try to get these things, and the lower level hackers who have, they try to look into these things and try to operate with your accounts. Okay, so that is release of contents, because of which there may be a lot of problems in most of the cases. Then I have another type of passive attack where the traffic analysis we are doing. So here also again we are considering the same thing. Like I have a corporate company, again I have a corporate company. If continuously we have a communication from sender and receiver, okay, then you need to think like they are going to have some kind of agreement. Okay, the opponent, by looking at this traffic, he will feel like in future there may be a combination of these two companies to come up with some product. So he will analyze why they are communicating, what kind of agreement they may have. Okay, and looking at that one, we will come to some conclusion. Okay, it's something like till this particular period, you are not talking much on phone. Okay, but suddenly from this period, you started talking daily with only one person. Then obviously your parents will think why you are talking much with only one particular person. Okay, it's kind of traffic analysis. What is the thing which is happening? Because of that, you are going to analyze something. Okay, it's something like we have a bank over here. Okay, in general, nobody will come and roam surrounding of that. But we have observed recently, like there is a person who comes daily to the bank. Okay, and he keeps on rotating around surrounding this particular bank to see what are the entry points we have for that particular bank. So several times he keeps on roaming, and after some days he will come and attack. So this kind of traffic has to be analyzed. So that is what they do, right? After some attack happens, basically a bomb blast or something, they try to analyze who are the people who frequently came into this particular thing. Even the attackers also, they come and look into the surroundings several times. After several times of looking these surroundings and trying to learn about that one, they will do attack. Okay, so that is kind of some traffic analysis. Who is talking, how frequent they are talking, what kind of communication may be happening. Okay, like that they will be thinking. Okay, so the best example what I can give for this one is, so basically India or in case many other countries, basically political leaders, they have a tendency to jump from one party to another party. Okay, consider this is party A, this is party B, or a person from party A and person from party B. So here you can consider he is party C, or maybe some higher authority within party A. Okay, So till this particular point, these two persons were not talking from party A and party B. But suddenly we have observed like a person from this party is frequently communicating with a person from another party. In such case, what we need to do? Like what the corresponding party will think? There may be some possibility like the person from party B may come into party A or the person from party A may go to party B. Basically, this media people will be keeping on observing these kind of things because they want some news, right? So they will keep on observing and someday they will release a breaking news telling like this person from party A has been contacting this person from party B frequently. He has been visited 7 times a day or 7 times a week. So there is a possibility like he may be going to that particular party. In reality, it may be like they may be good friends, but media will project in some other manner. Okay, so it's something like they are doing traffic analysis. But I cannot say like traffic analysis always bad. There may be some good things which will happen because of traffic analysis. So any examples that we can give for this traffic analysis? Okay, so let me consider some place in India. Okay, and let me consider a place in the world where we have terrorist groups. Okay, frequently there is a communication from this place to this terrorist groups. So basically intelligence team will be there, right? So when we observe lot of communication which is happening from a particular place in India and a terrorist group place, obviously that intelligence team will come to a conclusion like somebody from here are trying to contact this terrorist. Maybe there may be a possible attack or maybe they want to come up with some kind of plan. Okay, so they will try to intercept these messages by doing traffic analysis and they will try to come to some conclusion. Okay, even with respect to security also traffic analysis is very, very important. Then we have some active attacks, that is masquerade. Okay. So this is A, this is B, okay, or you can say he is a customer and this is bank. So basically it's like here you have your opponent. Somehow he got access to your system, okay, and what he is doing, he is saying to the bank like transfer 50,000 to a particular account. Okay, from whose account? From A's account. But who generated that? Attacker generated that one. Okay, so bank what it will think? If the credentials are proper, like username and password are proper, then he will think like it is you who is trying to give that particular command. Basically, like if you expose your credit card or debit card details, okay, the person attacker can get into the details and he can try to access your what we say is your account. So basically, if this credit card or debit card details you try to enter in a website like shopping website or anything from outside India, there are chances like there is no requirement of OTP. Okay, within India, if you are trying to give these details, then it will generate a OTP for which you will have to enter. But there are some cases, okay, where if the attack is being done from outside the country, outside India, then there are chances like it won't ask for OTP. In such case, what bank will think? Credit card details, basically everyone should not know that details, right? Only you should know. Okay, so what happens? It will think like it is coming from you only and it will give the respective amount. Okay, so these kind of things can happen. This is considered to be masquerade. Someone is pretending like it is you. Okay. Then we have another type of active attack where I have Bob who is communicating with his friend Alice. Okay, and we have a hacker, a bad guy, dark, he captures the message from Bob and tries to replay that particular message later. Okay, so it's like replaying messages also sometimes it is a problem. Like I said, with respect to bank, today you said transfer this amount of money, but tomorrow again someone is replaying that particular thing, then it's a problem, right? So you need to protect from these kind of attacks. Then I have another one, modification of message. So you are saying transfer some amount from A to B, but this opponent, he came in the middle and he is saying like transfer the amount from A to C. Okay, you are interested in sending amount to a particular person B, but attacker is coming and he is trying to divert that particular amount. Okay, so that is considered to be modification of message. Then denial of service. So denial of service is like I have a client here, I have a server here, okay, and I have an attacker here. So basically what happens in TCP is whenever you send a request, in the server memory, it's going to create a table, okay, for that particular request, and it is going to what we say, it's going to allocate some memory for each and every request. Okay, so what is happening here? A particular attacker is there. He is not interested in getting access to the system, but he just want nobody else should get the access to that particular server. Okay, so what does he do? He keeps on sending messages to the server. So basically the problem with TCP is whenever you request for some connection, it will reserve some memory for that. Okay, you are requesting, but after that you are not responding. But what server is doing? It is giving some kind of allocation. It is allocating some kind of memory to you. In such case, you are not allowing the others to utilize that particular service. Okay, so especially I can say like whenever your JNTU results comes, this kind of problem you will get. Denial of service. Okay, it is not attack I am saying, but it may be the capability of the server which they are establishing. But what happens is you will keep on requesting, but you won't be getting result immediately, right? So you keep on trying. After some time you will be getting the result. Okay, so it's something like multiple people are trying to access the resources, but the server is not able to respond for that one. Then you won't be provided with the service. That is called denial of service. So denial of service is like there is some resource available which you are supposed to give to some authenticated or authorized user, but some attacker is trying to come in the middle and he is making sure like that resource is not available for this people. Okay, so if I keep network aside and if I consider a general real-time example for this one, which has happened during the times of COVID. Okay, so what I heard are basically what is true in most of the cases is basically we have people, corporate people, or I can say like big industry people. What they have done is they went to hospitals, okay, corporate hospitals we can say, and they have booked like for each and every businessman they went and they booked entire floor for them, okay, in big corporate hospitals. Okay, the reason is they wanted to make sure like in case if someone gets attacked with COVID, they need to have a bed in that particular hospital. Okay, so because of which when a common man approached these corporate hospitals, they said like we do not have facility to serve for COVID-19. Okay, so basically corporate hospital, it can provide the service to a common man if they are willing to pay that particular bill, but because someone has already booked that particular service, they are not able to provide this kind of resource. Okay, so these kind of things will happen. Even if you are trying to book a Tatkal ticket, okay, lot of difficulties you will be facing because the servers will be very, very busy. You have access, you are authorized to get access to that taking that's called ticket, but because the server is not able to handle those things, you are being denied that particular service. Okay, so that is an example of active attack. Then we have another aspects of security like security mechanism and security service. So overall, when I consider security, we need to remember three things: C and A. Okay, so this is CIA. When I say this is not the security thing which basically available in America. I am not talking about that security wing, but I am talking about three different things: confidentiality, integrity, availability. Confidentiality means you need to protect from privacy. Integrity means you need to protect from someone modifying that particular information. Availability, if you consider any server, it should be available for everyone to get access to it. Okay, so these are the three important things which we have in security. So we have two different terms here: security mechanism and security service. So security mechanism is something like a process that has been designed to detect, prevent or recover from security attack. Okay, we have some security attacks, so we should be able to detect that one, or at least we should be able to prevent from that attack, or at least if attack happened, we should be able to recover from that attack. So the process which is designed to handle these things is considered to be security mechanism. We have another term, security service, which is nothing but a process or communicating service that enhances the security of data processing systems and the transformation of information from one organization to another organization. So indirectly we can consider like these security services are there to counter security attacks. But how they will be countering? By utilizing one or more security mechanisms. So I have some kind of attack, denial of service attack. How to counter that one? I am going to have some security service. How it will be implemented? By using one or more security mechanism. Okay, it will be more clear about the security services or mechanisms when we discuss examples. The same thing we are describing here. What is security service? It is there to enhance security of a data processing system and information transfers of an organization, and it is intended to counter security attacks, and it will be using one or more security mechanisms. Often it replicates functions normally associated with physical documents. For example, you have physical documents. How you will prove authenticity? You will look at the signatures. How you will overcome the problem of delays? You will have dates for that. How you will protect that one from someone being accessing that particular thing? You will keep inside a bank, or you will keep inside lockers, and you will close that particular thing with locks, right? So you are protecting from disclosure. When you again keep somewhere else where nobody can access, you are trying to protect from tampering that particular thing. Again, you are protecting from destructing that particular thing. Or you may be having a particular notary. I don't know if you have idea of notary or not. They are the persons who make documentation, and at the end, people will be signing as a witness. Like whenever you buy a particular house or property, then there will be a notary who will come up with a document, and there will be a person who is selling, who is receiving that particular thing, and there will be witness who will be saying like, I am the witness for this particular agreement. Okay, or it may be a recorded or licensed agreement. So like that, for physical documents you are going to have. Similarly, for network also you are going to have signatures, you are going to have dates, you are going to have mechanisms to protect from disclosure, tampering, okay, all these kind of things. So these are two services which are available: X.800, which tries to provide service it's like a service provided by a protocol layer of communicating open systems, which ensures security of the systems or data transfers. So it's like a protocol layer which is there in communicating entities, which tries to protect or secure the information that is being exchanged. And we have RFC 2828. It's again a processing or communication service provided by a system, again to protect system resources. Okay, these are just two examples of security services. Now we'll see what are the services X.800 providing. The first one is authentication. Authentication is something like it provides you assurance like whatever the entity that is communicating is the one claimed. For example, you are sending a email from your account to your friend. How you will be sending? You will first log into Gmail. You will provide your username and password. Unless you share your username and password with any others, it will be you who is accessing that particular mail, right? So that is nothing but authentication. How you provide authentication? Maybe by using username and password. Access control. Access control is some kind of security service where you will prevent unauthorized use of resources. For example, you have banking lockers. Who can access that particular thing? You along with banking person, you will be keeping a particular key. Banking people will keep a particular key. When both keys are matched, then you can get into your locker. Okay. Or for example, you consider your metro stations are there. Who can get in? The person who has taken the token or who has metro card and valid amount in that one, they can scan that particular thing and they will be able to enter inside the metro. Right? We have biometric systems. Who have access to the constrained resource? If fingerprint matches, you are trying to give access to that particular thing. So that is nothing but access control. Who is authorized to get in? Only those people will be getting access. Or your Gmail is there. Who is authorized to enter in that one? The person who enters your username and password, they will be getting access to your Gmail. Okay. Data confidentiality. You want to protect the privacy of your data. Okay. That is nothing but data confidentiality. How to protect the data? That is another study. But protecting the data from disclosure is considered to be data confidentiality. Data integrity is like whatever the data available, it should not be modified by unauthorized entity. Okay. So assurance that the data received is as sent by unauthorized entity. So you are sending like send 1,000 rupees to so and so person. If the same 1,000 rupees, the same message is delivered at the other side, there is no problem with data integrity. But if someone is modifying, then integrity of that data has been modified. For example, you are sending an IP packet. You have some source and destination. You are having some checksum here. Okay. If someone modifies this one, by using checksum, you should be able to identify that one. So that is the integrity of your IP packet. Then non-repudiation. It is considered with respect to source and also destination. Protection against denial of one of the parties in a communication. Like in future, you should not say like I have not sent this particular message, or in future the receiver should not say like I have not received that particular information. Okay, so that is considered to be non-repudiation. Okay. So do you have next class?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so we have 3 more slides. So we will complete the 3 slides and we will end the class. So this security mechanism, like we looked into the details like what are the security services X.800 is providing. This is very, very important. Like they can ask you to explain services provided by X.800, then you need to talk about these things. Authentication, access control, data confidentiality, data integrity and non-repudiation. Then we have security mechanisms. So this is the future which is designed to detect, prevent or recover from some kind of security attack. It's not like there will be one single mechanism which can provide all the security services. we do not have such mechanisms. We have several mechanisms which are required to provide all kind of services. Okay. However, one particular element underlies many of the security mechanisms in use. Like cryptographic techniques we have. If I consider this cryptographic techniques, which will provide lot of services. Like encryption and decryption is there. Okay. If I encrypt data, I can have data confidentiality and also data integrity. So like that, we have cryptographic techniques which will make sure like lot of entities are covered here. Okay, we will see the cryptographic techniques. So we have some specific security mechanisms. We have like pervasive security mechanisms. When I say specific security mechanisms, we have encipherment, digital signature, access controls, data integrity, authentication exchange, traffic padding, routing control, notarization. And when I consider pervasive security mechanisms, trusted functionality, security labels, event detection, security audit trials, security recovery. So encipherment is something like encryption and decryption. Digital signature means whatever the signatures you are keeping normally, they are being modified into digital signatures. Okay, we have digital signatures. For example, your fingerprint is there. That is digital signature. Nobody can alter that one, right? If I keep fingerprint, it will be me who is giving. Nobody else can keep their fingerprint and claim to be me, right? And access control. So how we can restrict some other person from getting access? Okay. So how it has to be done. So these are some kind of mechanisms which are there to provide respective services. So we will see the mapping of it so that it will be more clear. So I hope we are able to see complete screen. Okay. So we have peer entity authentication. What does it mean? Peer entity authentication means so peer means basically we are communicating from point to point or maybe one point to another point, right? So these are considered to be peers. So the client side, client and their server, these are peers. Peer entity authentication means client has to prove its authentication with server, server has to prove its authentication with client. So it's something like when you are trying to open Gmail, you prove your identity with Gmail by providing your username and password. But even Gmail has to prove its identity, right? It's not like someone has come up with a fake Gmail website and you are trying to enter into that one and providing your username and password. It should not happen, right? So, peer entity authentication. You will provide your username and password. Even Gmail, it will have some certificates using which it tries to provide its identity. Okay. So, to have that one, I need encryption and decryption, and also I need digital signatures, I need authentication exchange. These are the things which are required to provide that service. So I said to have some kind of service, we require one or two mechanisms. Okay. So all these things, whatever I have here, they are services, and whatever I have on horizontal line, they are mechanisms. To provide that service, I require these mechanisms. Then I have data origin authentication. Like from where the data is being coming. For that I need to have some authentication. Same here, I need to have encryption and decryption and digital signatures. Okay. Access control is there. If I have access control mechanism, that is sufficient. You don't have to provide authentication, all those kind of details. Confidentiality. Confidentiality I can provide by using encryption and decryption and routing control. Like routing control, why I need to have? Whatever the encryption and decryption you have, that may not be sufficient in some cases. I also need to have some kind of routing control so that confidential data will not pass through the areas where you expect like data may be having some issue with privacy. Okay. Then traffic flow confidentiality. Like I said, traffic can be monitored to have some kind of analysis. So I need to have traffic flow confidentiality. So for that again I need to have encryption and decryption, and also I need to have traffic padding, I need to have routing control. When I have traffic padding, so it's something like by looking at the data, these attackers can come into some conclusion like whether this data has this information or some other information. For example, you are having, first you will give username, then you will give your password. Okay, so if the attacker keeps on looking at when you will try to access this particular Gmail website, okay, so whenever you access, you might be exchanging username and password. If he can capture that first two entities, okay, in all the packets you are going to have same username and password. Okay, so what happens, he will capture all those packets and he will try to look into all those packets to come up with your username and password. But if I have traffic padding where you try to alter the traffic pattern or alter the data available by adding some kind of padding in that one, then you can kind of protect from traffic flow monitoring. Data integrity, whatever the data you are exchanging, you need to protect that one from modification. So for that also I need to have encryption and decryption. So for example, if someone comes to know what kind of encryption and decryption you are using and the corresponding keys, then it will be in danger. So we are having digital signatures. So what you will do is you will encrypt the message and you will sign on that particular thing. So once you encrypt and sign on that particular thing, nobody else will be able to modify that. Right. So once you encrypt and after that you try to sign on that one, nobody else will be able to modify. It's something like you have some letter of permission. Okay. You said like I want 1 week leave, and HOD or principal they have signed on this particular thing. Just consider that signature is not there. What happens? Tomorrow you will come and say like I have taken permission for 2 weeks. Then what is the guarantee like you have not modified? There is no guarantee like. So if someone is keeping that signature, then we can say like nobody has modified that particular message. But if someone is altering the message, then nobody can help in that particular case. Okay. We also need data integrity mechanism here. If I want to provide non-repudiation service, I need digital signatures. Again, I need data integrity. Non-repudiation means if I sign some message with my own signature, in future I cannot deny like I have sent that particular message. Okay. And also if nobody is able to modify my signature, that is data integrity is maintained, then in future source cannot deny like it has sent message, destination cannot deny like it has received message. Okay. So for that notarization will also be there. Okay. It's something like you consider the case of selling the property or buying the property. Okay. You have kept signatures. Okay. You have made sure like nobody will modify the data inside that one. But later, if you are saying like I have not sold this particular property, they will look at your signatures. But in case you say like these signatures are modified, you are going to have this notary, or you are going to have like basically these things will happen in MRO office or these things, right? Their MRO will be keeping the signature, and the witness will be there who is keeping the signature. So you cannot deny like all those persons' signatures has been tampered. Okay. So non-repudiation basically requires these three mechanisms. Then availability. To have availability, we need to make sure like data integrity is there, authentication exchange is there. Okay. So if you have these two things, you can make sure like you are making sure that resource is available for everyone. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have like I was talking about the security, all those kind of things, right? So see here, like when I talk about security, what happens here? You are able to see whiteboard, I think. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have two types of cryptography. When I consider cryptography, you have two types. Any idea what is this cryptography? What is
Sir,
cryptography?
see whatever you're writing.
I didn't get you.
We are unable to see whatever you're writing, sir, on the whiteboard.
Is it? What about others? Now also you are not able to see?
No, sir.
Oh. Now,
Yes, so now it's visible, sir.
yeah. Okay. So we are talking about the cryptography. Okay. So basically, what is this cryptography? Any idea?
It is used to protect any information, sir.
It's a science which tries to alter the message so that it is not readable by someone else. Okay. So basically, we have two types of cryptography here. Like, or two types of techniques we have in this one. One is symmetric. Are you able to see whatever I am typing?
Yes, sir.
Asymmetric. We have two types, symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. Okay. So what is the symmetric and asymmetric cryptography is? So when I consider source and destination, okay, if I consider symmetric cryptography, basically I need to do some kind of encryption here. I need to do some kind of decryption. So to encrypt, I am going to use some key here. Okay, and also to decrypt, I have to use some key here. Okay, basically encryption or decryption, it is being done with some key. It is something like I have generated some message, I am keeping some lock on that particular thing. Okay, that lock can be generated by a key or opened by a key. If I am using same key for encryption and decryption, then that is nothing but symmetric key encryption. Okay. If I am using same key at the encryption and the same key if I am using at the decryption, then it is nothing but symmetric key encryption. Okay. So for example, I am saying like I have a text ABC. Encryption, what I will do is I will try to shift the positions of these things. Shift the letters by +1. So instead of sending A, I'll send B. Instead of sending B, I'll send D. Instead of sending C, I'll send D. Okay. So the key is 1. I am shifting by a position 1. Okay. At the decryption, what I have to do? I have to shift again, like shift back. If I have B, I need to consider A. If I have C, I need to consider B. If I have D, I need to consider C. That is decryption. Encryption and decryption you are doing with 1. Either at encryption side you are adding 1, at the decryption side you are decreasing 1. But what is the value you are using? 1. That is same, right? So that is nothing but symmetric key encryption. Okay? Do you understand that? Is it clear? Yes, I could not hear anything.
Uh,
Still, I could not hear anything. I just got some sound, that's it.
It's clear, sir.
Okay, so that is about symmetric encryption where source and destination or encryption and decryption will be done with similar key. Next we have asymmetric key encryption, okay, where encryption is done with some key and decryption will be done with another key. Okay, encryption will be done with one key and decryption will be done with another key. Okay, so here this particular source, it is going to have two keys. One is public key and another one is private key. Okay, here also this one will have one public key, another private key. So let us consider this is source, right? So I am going to have public public key of S, private key of S. Okay, these two are combinations. Like whenever we are choosing these keys, they should be we have some kind of rule for that one. Like how we are selecting that particular keys, we have a rule. Okay, I cannot choose whatever the keys I want for public and private. Similarly, here also I am going to have public key of D, private key of D. So what happens is, if I am doing encryption with public key of D, okay, if I am doing encryption with public key of D, to decrypt that one, I need to have private key of D. Okay, understood that point? If I encrypt with public key of D, private key of D should be there to decrypt that. Similarly, if I encrypt with public key of S, I need to have private key of S to decrypt that one. Okay. Now, private key is available only with the corresponding user. That means this is available with D, public key is available with D and S. Public key is available with D and S, private key is available only with S. Okay. So that means I will have my own private key and I will have public keys of others. Okay. I hope till that particular point is clear. Okay. Now let me know, signature means only I will be able to do. So with what key I should be doing signature? You see, basically I have to use some key to do encryption. I have to use some key to decrypt. Okay, when I say I have to do signature, I am trying to encrypt my data. Okay, but what is the key I have to use so that it can be considered as signature? That is what my question. Any idea? No idea? Okay, so let us consider we have S. S has to do some kind of signature. Okay, it has generated a message. For that, if it is encrypting with public key of S, can I say that is signed by S? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have written here, right, with whom public key of S is available. First. Come up with the answer first. Yes, what happened? I have written here, right? With whom public key of S is available. With whom it is available? Rule number 10. Rule number 10.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, with whom public key of S is available? What happened? $21. $21. Rule number 21. $30. Rule number 30.
So 30 is absent, sir.
35. $35. I think it's better remove people who are not responding. $36. $36. $27.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Who will have public key of S?
D, sir.
What about public key of D? Who will have?
S, sir.
What about private key of S?
S.
What about private key of D?
D. Am I
See,
wrong, sir?
you are answering, but here I wrote public key of D is available with D and S. Private key of D is available with D. As the name suggests, public key means it is available public. Everyone will have it. Private key means only you will have that private key. Okay? If I say private key of D, only D will have that one. If I say private key of S, only S will have that one. So, I am saying I want to do signature. So, I have to encrypt with some key. So, whether I have to use public key of S or private key of S, that is my question. So, with which one I have to do? Yes, with which one I have to do?
Public key, sir, because D will also have that key, no, sir.
See, you are saying I need to do sign with public key of S. Okay, so that it can be considered as signature. Okay, that is fine. So the same thing can also be generated by D, right? I have a message. Okay, I have to encrypt this one. For that, I need to use some key, and you are saying I need to use public key of S. So how I can say like whether it is encrypted by S or whether it is encrypted by D? How I can say? Because both have that particular key, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you do encrypt with public key of S, I cannot consider that as signature. Okay. If you have to encrypt and it has to be considered as signature, then I need to use private key of S because only S will have that one. So if I take any message and encrypt with private key of S, okay, then nobody else will be able to modify that. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So if I encrypt with private key of S, to decrypt that one, what I need? Public key of S. Whether this is available with everyone?
Yes, it is available with D.
So I am interested in having signature to this. So I am signing or encrypting with private key of S. Okay. Whoever has my public key, they will be able to decrypt that particular thing. Okay. So that is how you will be doing signature. But we were talking about the other thing, confidentiality. How I can provide confidentiality? Because in this case, anyone who has public key of S, they will be able to receive this information. But I want to have privacy also. So what I will be doing? I will take the message, okay? Then I will encrypt with private key of S, okay? Or we can also say like, let us consider this way. I will encrypt with public key of D. To decrypt this one, who has to do this? Decryption we need private key of D. So only D will be able to decrypt this. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So the same thing, like who has public key of D, they can generate this particular message. So what I am doing, I will first take the message, encrypt this with public key of D. After that, I am again encrypting this one with private key of S. So is there any chance like anybody in the world is able to generate this particular thing? It's not possible because you are signing with your signature. Okay, nobody has your signature. So only you will be able to see, you will be able to generate this one. To decrypt this one, anybody will be able to decrypt by using public key of S. But they won't be able to see what is there inside because inside I have encrypted with public key of D, which will be able to decrypt only with private key of D. Okay, so that is how by using a combination of these signatures, we will be able to provide encryption, okay, to provide confidentiality and signature to provide authenticity. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we will see more things of this one, like how confidentiality is achieved, how authenticity is achieved, because we have different things like email security, etc., where we talk about these things. Okay. Anyway, we'll stop the session here. In the next class, we will talk more about this cryptographic techniques.